Prime Minister Raila Odinga has called upon developed nations to open their markets in order to boost trade with Kenya. Raila, who was speaking at the inaugural Alliance for Financial Inclusion Forum, noted that developing countries lag behind due to the strict trade policies put in place by the developed countries. The forum brings together 60 countries in an effort to avail financial service to all. Njuguna was at the opening ceremony, and as he tells us, the forum expects to come up with policies geared towards bridging the gap between the banked and the unbanked.
Delegates from 60 countries assembled in Nairobi for the inaugural Alliance for Finance Inclusion. In attendance were Prime Minister Raila Odinga, Finance Minister Uhuru Kenyatta, Central Bank Governor Professor Njuguna Ndungu, amongst a host of other dignitaries. Top on the agenda for the delegates from central banks and other financial policy makers was to form a coalition of countries from the developing world committed to making savings accounts, insurance and other financial services available to millions of people living on less than 200 shillings a day.
Given that the majority of our people still lack access to formal financial services, this indicates that we still have a huge task ahead in reaching out to this group with a broad range of financial services and products that are not just accessible, but also affordable to cater for their needs.
The aim is to avail financial services to about 50 million households by 2012 who are currently locked out of financial services. Speaking at the launch, Central Bank Governor Njuguna Ndungu noted that the country is yet to recover from the effects of the financial crisis that so many developed countries go into recession. Njuguna attributed the low coverage of financial services in the country to strict policies put in place by financial institutions governing borrowing and lending.
If you don't have assets, fixed assets, to offer as collateral, then you are excluded from the market, isn't it? But maybe you have a better credit history, even though you don't have fixed assets. So we can rely on your credit history.
Poverty and ignorance is yet another reason for the inability to access financial services.
The government has, for example, enacted the Microfinance Act of 2006 to enable microfinance institutions intermediate financial resources better by accepting deposits from our public. The government has also enacted the SACCO Act of 2008 to streamline operations of SACCOs and to enable them to play their financial intermediation role much more effectively.
Raila also called on developed nations to open up for trade with Kenya if they expect Kenya to buy their products.
You cannot expect us to import from you when you have closed your own market for our goods. Where do we get the money to pay for the goods that you expect us to buy from you? So allow us to also sell our coffee, sell our tea, sell our paratram, sell our other things to your market, as you also expect us to buy your cars, your TVs, and your computers. That is the two-way track that we must approach. That is how we want to approach it. We don't want to say we are beggars. We are beggars, but we are beggars with options.
Now 2.5 billion people living on less than 200 shillings a day have no access to financial services, and yet they have not been spared by the global financial crisis. In fact, research shows that everyone lost as a result of the financial exclusion. Now that is part of the reason for the meeting of minds from the financial sector, and at the end of 3 days of deliberation, they expect to take home a blueprint that they will use in their respective countries to mitigate the effects of the financial exclusion.